you the first to do this? Because I've never heard of it, but I'm no expert.
Yeah. We are the first to do sort of this model with a movie of this size and profile. 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, in '07, I had a film called Purple Violets. And what we did on that film, we were the first to release a movie exclusively on iTunes. We gave iTunes, I think it was a 9-month window where that was the only place you could get it. And we did a surprisingly robust business. And people thought we were crazy back then. They're like, people aren't going to watch movies on their computers. People aren't going to watch them on their iPhones. All right, and that predated the iPad, obviously, but also Apple TV, the way you can now stream movies from your computer onto your television. So we looked at the kind of business we were doing back then and realized, all right, now there's even greater business to be had there. And then I think the thing that we're, if not the first, one of the first, to then combine it with the on-demand and all the other digital platforms. But the big one is that we collapse the DVD window. Normally, your DVD is always going to come out, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months or 9 months after whatever version of a release you have. We just thought we want to strike while the iron's hot. And if you're still someone who likes to go to Amazon and buy a DVD or go to Blockbuster, we didn't want you to have to wait.
You know, people think of you as an actor, but I think you're more of a businessman.
Well,
not more.
Yeah.
Equally, maybe.
I got into the business by writing and directing my first little movie, Brothers McMullen. And you make an independent film when you're 25 years old and you have to put together a limited partnership and raise the money and then spend a year trying to sell it. And, this is my 9th film that I've done like that. And, as the business of independent film financing and distribution has changed over 15 years, you have no choice but to become a businessman if you want to stay in business. I mean, would I like to have to do all this research and sort of educate myself on the business side of filmmaking? I'd probably rather not. I'd probably just rather work on my screenplays. But that is not a luxury I can afford. So.
All right, now we've talked about it off camera. For the viewing audience, or people watching from the film festival, explain your business model.
All right, so given that the standard way to release an independent film, which is called the platform release, when you start in New York and LA, and then if you do well there, you go to 5 other markets, and then 3 weeks after that, if you did well, you go to another 5 markets. My films, the last couple of films, never even got to Austin. So we would hear from people in different cities who would say to me, as we went around and did film festivals like this, your last movie never got here. I had to wait 9 months for the DVD to come out. So we thought, is there a way on that moment when we're doing all of our press to get the movie directly to the audience that wants it? So we've kind of come up with this pretty unique distribution platform. So it's going to go out across every digital platform where you can find movies. So on iTunes, PlayStation, Xbox, Netflix will be available there. The major component is on demand. Companies like Time Warner and Comcast have really embraced the idea of let's make our on-demand channels a destination for small movies as opposed to an afterthought of, oh, is there anything on demand that I haven't seen at the theater? Now making it a place where, that's where you go to find the movie that you would have seen maybe at the art house theater. So that will change the game for us, and it's already starting to happen. Then the third thing, as I explained, was then making the DVD available also on our release date, which is October 26th. So on October 26th, depending on how you like to watch movies, we're going to give you the opportunity to buy it or rent it on that day in your home. And we're just going to eliminate the theatrical side of it because it's just too expensive to market a film for theatrical, and there's no way we can compete for attention with the studio films.
I know you see some of these films, Alice in Wonderland, the Twilight movies are recent ones that I'm thinking of, $40, $50 million, just in marketing.
Yeah. There's a couple of great examples in just the last couple of weeks. There were 2 films that came out of Sundance. One is Ryan Reynolds. He's a massive movie star. The movie was called Buried. There's another one, Philip Seymour Hoffman, another huge movie star, a film he directed. Both movies had a ton of press, big hits at Sundance, great reviews, and the audience just couldn't find the films. And people now, play armchair quarterback and try and figure out like why didn't they work and why didn't the audience come out. And I just think it's our viewing habits have changed and evolved, and it's much easier to sit home on your couch on your big flat screen TV, and especially a movie that isn't an event film. Alice in Wonderland, Twilight, those are events. You're going to go to the theater with your group of friends and see those films. I think big broad comedies still work in the theater. Horror still works in the theater, but small sort of character studies and drama comedies. You don't need to go to the theater to get the full effect of those films, and I think that's why people, quite honestly, aren't going anymore.
Do you feel a certain nostalgia for people going to the theater and seeing your film on the big screen?
Ideally, yes. You wish the climate hadn't changed so dramatically that people don't go to the theater anymore. So, you're a filmmaker, you make films, you want to see them projected in front of an audience in a big room, hear that collective sigh or laughter. That's a thrill. But that's why on this film, we're doing a massive film festival tour. So I still get to come to Austin. I get to see my film in a much better movie theater than I would have if I was on the art house circuit. I get to see it projected and listen to the crowd. And it's a much better experience than I had it gone out via one of the indie distribution companies. The other point that I've been mentioning about that is, I look at the films that, when I'm in film school, inspired me to want to be a filmmaker. Basically everything Woody Allen made, Truffaut, early Scorsese. I never saw any of these films in the movie theater. I'm watching them on VHS in my college dorm room on a 12-inch TV. And that's how I fell in love with them. So while ideally they should be seen in theaters, again, it would be financially irresponsible of me to hold on to that dream because it is over.
So the Austin Film Festival, festivals like it, a big part of what you're working with then?
Oh yeah, no, for us to be able to come to Austin, screen at a film festival, the audiences that you find at film festivals love movies. You usually have like real cinephiles, and then you have like very excited film students. Austin's a great film festival because they kind of focus on screenwriting. I'm not only a filmmaker, but my first love and passion is writing. So last night already, I got to meet a bunch of young writers and talk to them about their process, and they ask you questions about your process. So that's great because then as everything gets more niche, you're finding sort of like-minded people who are into the same types of films as yours, and then they end up going onto Facebook and telling other friends that they should go either read that screenplay or watch that movie. And for that, it's a very cool experience for me personally doing these festivals.
Okay, so tell us about this movie and what that people on October 26th can get in these different ways.
Yeah, so it's a comedy drama that takes a look at your dreams and what it costs to chase them, and how you might disappoint the people that are counting on you when you do. So the lead, it's called Nice Guy Johnny, and Johnny is a sports radio talk show host in Oakland at a small station, working the overnights and not making much money. He's made a deal with his fiance that if he wasn't making X amount of dollars by the time they got married, he'd give up the dream, return to New York, and go work, take a job that her father's arranged for him, triple his salary. He obviously does not want to do this, but he's Nice Guy Johnny, nice to a fault, gave her his word. So the movie takes place when he's leaving San Francisco or the Bay Area to come to New York for the interview. The mistake he makes is he goes to see his uncle, who's a bartender in Manhattan. That's the character I play. I find out he's 24 and getting married. I think that's mistake number one. I find out that he's giving up his dream job. That's mistake number two. So I tell him I'm going to take him out to the Hamptons for the weekend, and my plan is to derail him and set him straight. And that's sort of where the comedy ensues.
Can you relate to this guy?
Yeah, I look at myself when I'm making Brothers McMullen. Part of the reason that I don't play the lead character, I didn't want this to be a guy in his 40s dealing with his dream. I remember, being 25 years old, I'm trying to get Brothers McMullen made, and everybody's telling me I'm crazy. You're going to do what? You're going to write and direct and act in a feature film? Like, who's going to see it? And again, this is the early 90s. This is before the idea that these movies might actually reach the public. And I was just hell-bent on doing it in the way that, when you're 24, you don't listen to reason. You're a lunatic and this is the thing you want to do, so you chase it with everything you've got. So that's kind of, I wanted to tap into who I was at that age when your dreams are, when your dreams in the world is all brand new.
I don't know of a young person out there, because I'm not a young person anymore, and who hasn't faced that dilemma.
Every friend of ours, as we started to sort of shape the story, I have a good friend of mine who's a musician who had to face the same deal and go and get a real job. A friend of mine who's a journalist, that's what he wants to do, but smaller newspapers especially are closing, had to then make a real change and give up the thing that he loves to do. And the more that we talked about it with people, that's what we kept finding. Everybody has the story of, I went to New York for 2 years and I really wish I would have stuck it out for a third year to pursue my acting career. Or, I was in that band and we broke up when I got married and maybe we could have gotten a record deal. Or the novelist, or the reason we made this character a sports journalist was it didn't have to be in the arts. It could just be a guy who, anyone who has the thing that they love to do versus that job with the benefits that, sometimes again, we talk in the movie a lot about, being fiscally irresponsible in pursuit of your dreams. And I think that's the real challenge that all of us face.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so hopefully this is going to be successful for you, this distribution method, October 26th.
Yep.
Do you really see 5 years from now it being, a lot of theaters being closed?
I think you can look at the fact that attendance has been dropping pretty steadily over the years for theatrical releases. The big budget studio films, I think they're going to be okay. But the smaller dramas and the smaller independent comedies have had such a tough time in the last couple of years finding audiences that I definitely think like the model that we're using is going to be a big part of the future of how these films are distributed. Just the costs are much lower and the upside is so much greater. Like, we have no doubt in our mind, like, we're guaranteed to hit a single. Like, there's no way we can lose money on this model, which is very exciting. Now, I have an advantage over a first-time filmmaker in that, I've been in a couple of studio movies, people know who I am, I can get on to and talk to you and tell you about what I'm doing. I think it might take a little bit of time for the unknown filmmaker to figure out how to make this model work. But for guys like myself who keep making the more personal films that we love, this is a model that is going to keep us in business. And that's been the whole thing. Like, how do I make a movie that makes enough money so that next year I can get enough money to make another movie? And that's been the challenge of the last 5 years. It's been harder for those films to turn a profit. Now we think we've figured out a way to do that, and that's pretty exciting. So to answer your question, I think yes, because it's still a business and it's about making money.
Well, and most of the time, my favorite movies each year are not the big blockbusters. In fact, you watch them and you think, they spent how much money making that story and it didn't even make sense.
Yeah.
I couldn't,
Yep.
And so in the good, and you're always so appalled at the fact that the really good movies and the documentaries, Waiting for Superman, which I'm hoping does really well, can't find an audience. Well, maybe this is a way.
Oh, this is absolutely the way. I think, if you look at what's offered up to you for the most part theatrically versus what's available to you on cable television now. You look at the quality of the writing and the storytelling on the shows that HBO and AMC and Showtime and FX are providing. It's no wonder that audiences are more comfortable watching great storytelling at home, because that's where they've been getting it for the last 10 years. So why should we think like great storytelling on the film side? Like, the audience is already there. That's where they're comfortable watching these types of stories. Let's just make our stories now available to them, as opposed to asking them to get up out of the house pay for parking, pay for popcorn, pay $13 for a ticket. So we're confident that this is the future